been ass blasted with Ellen DeGeneres truth bombs about what it's like to work with Ellen and what it's like to even be near her. She treats everyone around her terribly according to most people that have ever even encountered her by accident. Shit, from some of the things I read, if a kid with a broken arm found Ellen DeGeneres at a donut shop and asked for an autograph on the cash, she'd probably slap him and spit in their face. She just seems like a really terrible person to associate with, according to everyone that has had the misfortune of associating with her. And her workplace environment has been called toxic by everyone that's fucking worked there. And apparently it's filled with racism as well, according to a lot of the reports. So things aren't looking too great for Ellen DeGeneres' be kind image, when she seems to be one of the most not kind people in the space. I think talk shows suck. I've already talked about Wendy Williams' show and everything I dislike about that, and I thought it was only fair I talk about Ellen's show because it's just as bad, if not worse, because she parades around like she's some gift from God to bring salvation to this planet through her kind, generous acts.
God damn it, my microphone wasn't on. Oh, son of a bitch. No, I was reading, I was telling you about Cheech and Chong. Me and my buddy, Mike the Burnout, we used to be able to recite the Cheech and Chong albums. Had them on LP, on vinyl. We used to sit around and get high and listen to them all the time. I've seen the movies. If you think Cheech and Chong are funny, you have to see the young ones. It's a old British TV show.
Happy hour ain't happy unless you bring me a beer. Don't test my patience. It's thinner than your wallet. Oh, some days I don't even know why I open the doors.
Yeah, I don't know why I opened the doors either. Oh, are you still there, man? God damn it. Alright, well, anyway. Should have dropped all this shit off. Man. Ugh. Fucking bogus. I'm reading chat. My microphone was turned off. I didn't know it. Oi, I gotta remedy that. Maybe if he looks back at the chat, or anybody sees this in chat, actually.
which seems pretty far from the truth, and she's being investigated for these workplace environment claims as well as like other bullying things that are coming to light with all this. Keep in mind these are all just claims, but they're from current and former employees, and if she really is so incredibly kind, I can't imagine why everyone would have a coordinated effort to attack her in the environment. So they probably do have some weight, but again, it's not proven. It's not like the people that have worked on the Ellen DeGeneres stuff go in there and it looks like some shit out of a horror movie where there's fucking bodies hanging from meat holes and shit, mangled corpses everywhere because it's that evil. But it does seem like an absolutely terrible place to work with actual bad shit going on. But again, they are just claims at the moment. Even if all those claims turn out to be completely false, I still wouldn't like Ellen. I don't like her show. She'll publicly shame people in her audience. She's very rude a lot of times. And I don't get a smile on my face in the few times that I've tried watching the show. She's like a pioneer though, I will give her that. She basically invented shitty TikTok comedy before TikTok existed. Half of Ellen's shit that I can see, besides the fake being kind garbage, is that she does goofy dances, baby! And that's like supposed to be a big root of the ha-has in her show, which I'm just not really too big of a fan of. But all in all, it just seems like a terrible place to work according to employees and a terrible thing to be on according to guests. For example, a YouTuber named Nikki Tutorials went on Ellen's show, was very excited to go on the show, and went on another show later and insinuated she kind of fucking hated the Ellen show. She wasn't overly happy about the experience, and that kind of coincides with what a lot of the other guests have said as well from what I've read so far. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to talk about all this because I talked about Wendy Williams and it only makes sense to talk about Ellen DeGeneres' show as well. So that's about it. If they do end up firing Ellen DeGeneres from her position on the show, I'm more than willing to step in and take up the mantle. We can totally rebrand that shit. I have a fucking whole closet full of unimaginable amounts of sex toys. We could bring celebrities on. We could slap each other with rubber vaginas. It could be a good old hoot and a holler, a real good time. So if you're watching Warner Brothers, at least consider it. That's about it. See ya. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've been glued to everything involving Will Smith over the last couple weeks since his slap at the Oscars. That slap was like a second Big Bang, but instead of creating a universe, it created a window for everyone to look into an absolutely awful toxic marriage. And not only that, it's like open Pandora's box, but the only thing in that box was cuckoldry and sadness. Will Smith has been catching L's like Pokemon. Every single day is Christmas, but the only gift Santa brings is more embarrassing stories about Will Smith or his marriage. One that still lives rent-free in my head at the time Will Smith, in an interview, said that he used to vomit after orgasming as a psychosomatic response. What a banger of an interview. So Will, how's your marriage? Yeah, I come and puke. Takes his mic off and walks away. Amazing. There's Will Smith with the puking, coming, and shitting statement. Thank you. Now this was pre-slap. This was not the post-slap era. We're now living in a post-slap society. PS. So this is one PS. And since that slap, more and more stories have been coming out about how awful his marriage is with his wife. And, you know, like whether it's his wife saying she never wanted to marry him in the first place, which again, I don't know why you don't say that. That's just such a mean thing to say, and especially make a public statement about it. Or his wife just absolutely steamrolling his ass, just dump trucking him about the slap, saying that she wasn't really supported and wasn't really happy about the slap. Like, she is just absolutely taking Will and cooking his ass. It is sad to see. It is just fucking painful at this point. Now, recently this video came out where Jada Pinkett Smith, his wife, was filming without his permission. You can just see how defeated and uncomfortable this guy looks. This was from 2019, so this is again pre-slap, BS before the slap era. But it is still just such a sad look at an awful, awful relationship.
You know, Stephanie is coming to the table, coming to your table. Would you say she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship?
I would say that you could start filming me without asking me if you could film me.
Astaire, come help us again, please.
This reminds me of that scene from the movie Hitch where Will Smith says, I saw that going differently in my mind. Like, it's the same energy as this right here, but in reality. So his wife just starts recording him and trying to make him like dance like a puppet to, you know, promote whatever she's trying to talk about. I'm not really sure the full context, to be honest, but it's about how someone helped their marriage, but she's doing it without Will's permission and his consent to film, which is obviously an intrusion. That's not okay. That's just violating his personal personal space and his privacy. He clearly didn't want to be on camera for this, but she doesn't respect boundaries. As evident from the time when she sat him down on her show to tell him about her entanglement with other men, right to his face, just talking about the cheating and making light of it, and Will is very clearly like upset, nearly crying about it, but she just keeps going and pushing it. And you can see that it's not just like something she does for her show, it seems like it's something that translates to their actual household. I'm becoming fully parasocial in this Will Smith relationship now. Will Smith is a fucking weirdo, this whole family is weird. There's nothing I'm trying to defend here. I'm just watching as a spectator and trying to wrap my head around this absolutely wacky and wild season of the Will Smith household.
I'm still dealing with foolishness.
She good, cause she don't just.
Would you say that she helped us heal the hurts that we caused between one another?
My social media presence is my bread and butter, okay? So you can't just use me for social media and not, don't just start rolling. I'm standing in my house. Don't just start rolling.
Please watch us stare at the red table because she's helped us a lot. Can't you tell?
God, that seems absolutely fucking miserable where your wife is also playing the paparazzi, so you're just never safe. You could just at any moment end up on fucking Instagram live stream or whatever this was without you having any prior knowledge of it and just embarrassed. I can't even for 1 second think of a possible reason why she'd even film this and post it. This is just straight up delusional. It seems like it's supposed to be like a promotional piece for her upcoming episode with a guest that supposedly helped their marriage. But that marriage is not looking that healthy. Will Smith looks like he's trying to come up with a plan to fake his own death to get out of this marriage easier. Whatever wounds she was talking about being healed, that person have clearly not healed. She has been scammed. It's like a fucking crypto scam here. Those wounds have not been healed. It seems like only salt has been poured on those wounds, like a jellyfish sting, and the only thing they've done for it is piss all over it. It's not getting any better. This looks awful. And it seems like it's supposed to promote her upcoming episode. But this did the opposite. It just made the person she's bringing on look like a fucking idiot. If she was at all responsible for what you're seeing in this clip here.
Oh, man.
I don't really know what Jada Pinkett Smith's show is about. The only clips I've ever seen from it are the ones where she's talking about how much she hates marriage and embarrasses Will on it. So it really sounds like her show is just a weekly roast of her husband. I don't really get it, but damn, every single day a new story comes out that just makes Will look fucking awful. It's just more and more awful stories surface or videos surface that showcase an absolutely brutally dysfunctional marriage and household. So yeah, I've been really keeping up with it. I can't help it at this point. I'm so invested. That slap has just been like a gateway drug, and now I'm fully addicted here. Will Smith has been banned from the Oscars for like 10 years now. I don't really know what's going on with Chris Rock. He's probably still laughing about the whole situation. But I mean, overall, that whole Oscar slap thing has just been the gift that keeps on giving in the era of celebrity drama and gossip. What a wild and wacky ride. And I'm sure even more information about Will Smith or his wife is going to come out tomorrow. Like, at this rate, it's probably going to be a new story every day, because it does not seem to be slowing down. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. That's about it. So yeah, I have some fantastic news for all of you today. A heartwarming story, so wholesome, this kind of spirit could make the Grinch's heart grow 3 sizes. Today, it was made clear to a lot of people that I was right all along. They're finding out what I've known since the beginning of time, that James Corden is an unentertaining asshole whom is an absolute detriment to everything he's in. His presence makes the media that he infests worse. He is the worst part of the movies he is in. He is just a miasma of unentertainment, the antithesis of fun. And today, he has been banned from a New York restaurant because he is a massive dickhead as well. Now, as you know, I've been teaching this like the gospel for years now. He's perhaps my least favorite celebrity, and I hold a personal grudge against him because he once took down a video I made here listing his most embarrassing moments of his career. The video remained on my channel for about 15 minutes before it was manually taken down by his team, and I hold him personally accountable for that sin. Now, I've never met James Corden, and I've only ever heard rumors that he's insufferable to be around and pretty mean in general. I remember there was a comedy team that played a prank on him that made him like late for work, and he came across really bad there. There's also been a lot of stories from people that have either worked for him or met him where they said he was a real asshole. But To me, the biggest crime he'd ever committed in my eyes was just being cringe. I've never disliked him because of the stories I heard about him. That was just the cherry on top of how much I dislike his presence in all of the movies and shows that he somehow infests. He's just been in so much shit and makes it even worse. So, let's go over the situation here today. James Corden's just one of those people where whenever I read something like revealing more about him being an asshole, I can't help but like almost celebrate a little bit, like wiggle my finger, you know, maybe I even stand up and hit a little boogie with it. Oh, what's that, the SpongeBob? Huh? Oh, James Corden's being an asshole? Oh, you know, that's weird. It's almost like they knew it from the get-go. Oh, can I have a dessert? Now, before showing the manager reports here, I need to make it known that this has been a confirmed true story. This isn't just pulled out of someone's ass. James Corden has apologized for his actions here, and the owner of the restaurant has accepted the apology and says that he's rescinding the ban on him and he's welcome to come back. I think he should have stuck to his guns, because now the only reason he's apologizing is because of public pressure, because it became such a huge story, it went viral. It's not that James Corden is actually apologetic, he just knows that it's a PR disaster, so he's trying to save face. So here's the full statement from the owner of the restaurant. Their name is Keith, and they said this about James Corden. James Corden is a hugely gifted comedian. I'm going to stop you right there. We're not even a full sentence deep, and I've just got to make a quick He's not gifted, nor would he be considered a comedian by most people. He is a plain, boring person you could think of, like a default character in PC. Well, regarding his hugely gifted comedian, but a tiny cretin of a man, and the most abusive customer to my Balthazar servers since the restaurant opened 25 years ago. I don't often 86 a customer, but today I 86 Corden. It did not make me laugh. That statement does make me laugh, though. That's just so blunt. Calling him a cretin and then 86ing him, saying it didn't make him laugh. Here's two examples of the funny man's treatment of my staff. Keith is coming in here with the claws. He's fuming, and rightfully so. I've said this a million times, I'll say it a million more, I'll scream it from the mountaintops. Anyone who is rude to anyone in the customer service industry, waitresses, waiters, cashiers, whatever, anyone who is a dick to them, a fucking douchebag to them, is a completely worthless piece of shit. Plain and simple. It takes a special kind of evil to mistreat someone in the service industry like that. I also haven't heard the term 86 since SpongeBob with 86 those patties, crabs. So let's look at manager report number 1. In June, James Corden was here on table 61. Although this is diabolical, it happens very occasionally in all restaurants. After eating his main course, Corden showed the hair to Balthazar's manager, G, who was very apologetic. Corden was extremely nasty to G and said, "Get us another round of drinks this second, and also take care of all our drinks so far. This way, I write any nasty reviews in Yelp or anything like that." So this sounds like a pretty big blow-up over something pretty minor. Yeah, it's yucky finding a hair in your food. It happens. Most people just suck it up and move on. But I also don't think there's any shame in being like, hey, I found this hair in here, just was hoping I could maybe place another order or get this replaced. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. Just being respectful about it. Because, you know, accidents happen. It's something that just unfortunately happens from time to time. I'm a legitimate hypochondriac, and even I would pick it out. But I do understand why someone wouldn't. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. Fine, there's no reason to call the manager over and threaten to leave a nasty review, right? Like, I think that's so let's move on. Corden was at Balthazar with his wife on October for brunch. He asked for a table outside. Table 301. Mr. Corden's wife a few minutes after they received food, James called the server in K and told her there was a little bit of egg white mixed with the egg yolk. In K informed the floor manager G. The kitchen remade the dish, unfortunately sent it with home fries instead of salad. That's when James Corden began yelling like crazy to the server, "You can't do your job, you can't do your job, maybe I should go into the kitchen and cook the omelet myself." MK was very apologetic and brought G over to the table. He returned the dish, and after that, everything was fine. He gave them promo champagne glasses to smooth things out. G said that Corden was pleasant to him, but nasty to the server. MK was very shaken, but professional that she is, continued to finish her shift. So this one I think is a little bit more indicative of the real personality of James Corden. If something is slightly not up to his standards, he loses his temper about it. I think that's very par for the course from all the stories I've read about him, from workers as well as people that have met him, as well as that brief segment where you can see him kind of blowing up in the... He seems like a kind of person that's very entitled and feels like they're superior to just normal people. So, he fucking blows up. Go back there and cook it then. You can't disgusting. I spit on you fucking plebeians. This is disgraceful. You sent me a dish with a salad? Are you trying to kill me? This is poison. Shamelessly has done this twice now, and this one apparently in front of his wife. Blows my mind. How anyone can do this in front of other people, especially people they care about, is something that will never compute with me. How do you not get embarrassed? No, this isn't like a tough guy thing. This doesn't make you look alpha. This doesn't make you look like a strong man. This makes you look like a little bitch. You look like an absolute douchebag, weak little man. As Keith calls him, a tiny piece of a man. Why are you getting so upset at the server who did nothing to slight you? They didn't insult you. Everything that happened wasn't on purpose. It wasn't an attack against you. Simply what it did for not probably for the salad is easy solutions. Be like, oh, I actually wanted the salad. And then bang, they'll go get you the salad, I imagine. They're not going to sit there and like challenge you to fisticuffs like, I will not get you the salad, and I'm throwing the gauntlet down. Oh, put him up, Corden. Like, it's just such an easy thing. These were the team manager reports. Now, of course, this isn't anything like in the face of the server or anything, but even still, this kind of behavior I never have any tolerance for. There is just never an excuse to be rude, mean, nasty, yell and scream at anyone in the service. You know, for honest mistakes, you know, there's no excuse for it. Now, if the server run up to him and slap him around and idiot, and I hate to talk about it, you know, like then maybe that kind of hurts. But they're just and didn't bother. I can't help but smile and just take it back from a distance as a spectator and be like, yep, that's James Corden for you. You guys are seeing this, right? So you know I was right. Even though I know most people agree that James Corden is entertaining. So it's a very cool thing, but it's one that I just keep mentioning anytime that it's brought up. So really, that's about it. So yeah, I've said this before, and now it's time to dust it off and say it again. And I don't care whose feelings get hurt by this. Just like in the laboratory, I don't care if your ass gets sore. It's time to live with the truth. It is extremely embarrassing when somebody makes one thing their entire personality. Whether that's being a fan of a show, being a fan of a band, or standing beyond it. If you have like a shtick that becomes a meme, making that meme your entire brand and your entire life. I find that to be cringe. And the internet is of course a portal to cringe, so let's show you who I believe to be the most sad specimen when it comes to this phenomenon. Salt Bae. Salt Bae is a restaurant owner who rose to fame because he sprinkles salt down his arm like this while wearing sunglasses. He looks like a time traveler from a steampunk dystopia. He took off as a meme and kind of a joke online, but then that meme got made into real flesh. He adopted that as part of his soul, and it has now become his entire identity. He translated all of that online buzz into real-world success, so his restaurants are actually quite popular, and they're known for extremely overpriced food. most notably this abomination. This is a steak wrapped in edible gold, and I think it looks truly awful. That shit looks like a poorly wrapped Christmas present, but what's even worse here is Salt Bae himself, the Santa Claus of meat. He comes to the table and he orders something like this and puts on a little song and dance and puts up the gold steak, and then he hits it with his signature anime finishing move where he sprinkles the salt down his arm, and then he grabs a piece of the steak on a knife and then dangles it over any woman at the table face. He just like dangles the meat over there like he's at like a petting zoo or something, and then the women are expected to like lift up and then bite the meat off of his knife. It's pretty embarrassing to watch. Like, I can only imagine going there and seeing your girlfriend do that. You'd be like, damn, this is expensive and I feel like I'm getting cucked even though everyone's clothes are still on. It's just, I think it's goofy, very silly, but overall, it's harmless cringe. But as is so often the case with these memers turned celebrities, he flew too close to the sun. I think this shtick was never entertaining. I never really saw the comedy styling with sprinkling salt down his arm to be gut-busting or anything. But it's not like it bothered me either that he got popular from it. But he became way too pretentious with it, and to the point where he felt entitled to be on the field during the World Cup when Argentina won. So he went onto the field after Argentina won the World Cup, and he tried to make the entire trophy ceremony and everything about him. If you go to his Instagram, it's so many pictures of him holding the World Cup, you'd think he was part of the team that won it, even though he had nothing to do with it. And he also has that picture in the bottom right that looks like he actually fished a piece of poop out of a tub. He's getting dunked on by everyone on the internet for this shit, and I just want to show you some of his videos. It is so bad. By far the worst one is him trying to get Messi's attention. So you can see him kind of like harassing him and yanking on him to try and get Messi to acknowledge him, kind of like a toddler trying to get his dad's attention. But Messi's having no part of it. He's actually celebrating him and his team, his family, and he doesn't give a fuck about Salt Bae pestering him for like a photo for his Instagram. It's so embarrassing to look at. Now, apparently, Salt Bae and Messi have met before. He wasn't like a complete stranger, but Messi just Salt Bae fed him a piece of food. Like, it's not like they were inseparable friends or something. And the gall to go out on the field after the World Cup with everyone on the team is so laughable and pathetic. It was so bad, in fact, that now FIFA is investigating how he even got on the field in the first place, because they're not entirely sure. The leading theory is that he was able to get on the field because he's somewhat friends with the FIFA commissioner, like the head of the FIFA org. So that's the leading theory, but even that's not 100% certain from what I've read. But yeah, let's take a peek at some of those videos he filmed, because man, they're classics. Just like taking a trophy from a baby, so Salt Bae continues to like yank on the trophy until finally the player just relinquishes control of it, and Salt Bae pushes it up as if he's something. He also shakes his finger no to the baby, letting him know that it's his turn, it's his trophy, he fucking deserved it. He put nutrients in that team's body one time fucking 4 years ago. So he's just as much a part of it too as anyone else there. He has every right to this trophy. It should almost be studied. And of course you can't go for a single video without hitting him with that salt sprinkle. Because man, that's so good. It's so iconic even, man. You can't get enough of that one. Man, that guy's face really tells the whole story. That discomfort. Faking a smile, but his eyes are just beyond annoyed. Wondering who is this guy, and why is he squeezing on my hand and trying to grab the trophy from me? This one's a real quick one, hitting him with a wow and then spanking the trophy, giving it a little slap on the keister there. And you can see yet another player very uncomfortable with Salt Bae's presence. He's just this like miasma of uncomfortableness. He swoops in like this absolute plague. He shouldn't be there, and everyone knows it, and he's there, ruining the moment. It's so fucking weird. Oh, here's a great one for the scrapbook. Landing on his medal there. I'm sure he really liked that. The guy that he is not friends with doesn't even really know. And then surprisingly, metal. Though I guess in Salt Bay, so maybe he got a little confused, maybe he was hungry. There were a couple more sightings of Salt Bay out there making a fool out of himself, but I think these are by far the worst, so there's no reason to keep dunking your head in here into the cringe. I just wanted to make it very clear that this is some absolute clown behavior. I never think it's a good idea to try and make one thing your entire identity. Whether it's a meme, whether it's you being a fan of something, I always think that that's always just going to be a path to cringe. Just imagine getting a huge ego because you sprinkle salt down your arm on overpriced steak. This isn't the only case of this happening though, by the way, and I've talked about one other before that I'll briefly mention here since it's related. You might remember during E3 a couple years ago when Keanu Reeves made a surprise appearance, there was that "you're breathtaking" moment that, you know, captured the world and tugged on everyone's heartstrings. Well, the audience member who shouted out, "No, you're breathtaking," which became a huge, online deal. The guy who shouted that tried to make an entire career just off of that one line, that one moment, trying to capture that lightning in a bottle over and over again. He became a YouTuber and streamer. He tagged everything with hashtag "you're breathtaking" or hashtag breathtaking and called himself the breathtaking guy. I think. I can't quite be certain if he called himself the breathtaking guy. I don't really remember exactly what he gave himself, but I do remember everything he did it with the "you're breathtaking" as the forefront. That was his whole online identity, and tried to make a career out of it. It didn't kind of work out moment, and it didn't seem like he was trying to clout chase off of just that one thing. But then it lasted for over a year. Like I still kept up with him like a year later to see if he was still doing it, if he finally like graduated from that and started to maybe pivot into a different kind of shtick or even no shtick at all and just being a streamer or a YouTuber. But he never did in the entire time I was checking in on him. He was always going by the "your breathtaking" to try and make it big. And it didn't pan out super well. Last I saw, this was streaming to about like 10 viewers at the time. And I just felt really bad for him because this is one of those moments where you have this huge blow up almost overnight because of one thing that you did that everyone loved. So you want to keep doing that because everyone loved it, but then you wear it out. It overstays its welcome. And then eventually you end up in a position like Salt Bay, where it's just kind of washed up, it's run its course, and now you just look silly for continuing to embrace it and continuing to try and sell that. So I just wanted to bring this up because I think Salt Bay is a bit of a loser, especially for this World Cup shit. That's about it. Growing up, I never understood the hype or obsession over celebrity couples, like a power couple where fans just celebrate that they're in love or whatever and they're fainting anytime they see a picture of them holding hands. Just like a growth spurt, I just never got it.
New at 5, a White Lake homeowner has been charged with manslaughter in a shooting back in July that raised some questions.
The prosecutor says Dayton Napton shot a 17-year-old who was trying to steal items from his garage.
Dayton Napton is currently facing manslaughter charges in the state of Michigan when a group of teens, a group of youths, broke into his garage at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he responded to these youths by firing upon them while they were in this garage. Now, of course, this has caused a lot of debate across the internet.com on whether or not this should be covered by the Castle Doctrine or by regular Michigan self-defense law. But in this video, what we're going to do is actually examine the facts of the case as presented by the prosecution. We're going to hear a little bit from the defense attorney of the man who is being charged. And of course, we're going to examine the laws at issue to determine whether or not this man, Dayton Napton, will likely be convicted of these manslaughter charges. We are also going to talk about whether or not the teens, the youths, who are facing charges in relation to the burglary that they were committing at the time that one of them was shot and killed, should face additional charges for the death that resulted from the felony that they were committing. But before we get into that, I will remind you guys that Nate the Lawyer, friend of the channel, is expected to undergo brain surgery tomorrow to remove a rather large tumor from his brain, as he indicated in a video that he posted about a day ago. And I want you guys to go over to his channel, send him some love and support. And by the way, I'm making this video in Nate the Lawyer style, where I disregard my personal opinion and just go based on the facts, the legalities, in order to present you the proper outcome. So I hope he appreciates this, because Nate, you are well loved on the internet.com, well respected by people like me, and I wish you a speedy recovery. But again, let us get into the facts of this case.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different sides we're hearing. We're hearing from the prosecutor's office, that man's defense attorney, and the family of that teen who was shot and killed, and they're upset.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it hurts a lot.
4 months after 17-year-old Savon Wilson of Pontiac shot and killed in White Lake Township, his family says the charges have them confused.
I think the way they went about it.
When films moved
Why?
from silent to talkies in the late 1920s and early 1930s, careers changed, actors changed,
Why?
heroes changed. Many famous actors and actresses immediately lost the limelight and went to darkness. For some, it was a good move, but for some, it was the end of their careers. Here are 17 silent film stars whose prominence diminished with the advent of sound films. John Gilbert. John Gilbert was a prominent leading man of the silent era. He was known for his roles in romantic dramas and hailed as one of Hollywood's most popular male stars. His intense screen presence, expressive face, and dashing good looks made him an icon of silent cinema, especially in films like The Big Parade and Flesh and the Devil, where he often starred opposite Greta Garbo. However, when sound films emerged in the late 1920s, Gilbert's career encountered unexpected obstacles. One significant issue was Gilbert's voice. Unlike many of his silent film contemporaries, Gilbert's voice was not poorly suited for sound. He had a clear and relatively pleasant tone. However, his voice did not match the romantic image he had established during the silent era. Some audiences felt that his voice, combined with his dramatic acting style, seemed too exaggerated for the more naturalistic dialogue-driven scenes in talkies. Gilbert's acting style, characterized by grand gestures and intense expressions, also clashed with the subtler demands of sound film. Furthermore, his off-screen life was marked by personal and professional issues, particularly with studio head Louis B. Mayer. It's rumored that Mayer had personal animosity toward Gilbert and deliberately sabotaged his career by giving him roles that accentuated perceived weaknesses in his voice and by insisting on poor scripts. Despite his attempts to adapt, Gilbert's film roles gradually diminished, and he was no longer offered the leading parts that had defined his silent film legacy. He ultimately retired from acting in the early 1930s, having lost the popularity and status he once enjoyed. Clara Bow. Clara Bow, famously known as the It Girl, was the epitome of flapper glamour and the vivacious spirit of the 1920s. Her natural charisma, energy, and infectious smile won her a massive following during the silent film era. Bow's on-screen presence was magnetic, and her performances in films like It and Wings solidified her status as a beloved star. Her carefree attitude and expressive, larger-than-life persona made her a perfect fit for the silent screen, where exaggerated expressions and movements were crucial for conveying emotion without sound. However, when sound films, or talkies, emerged, Bow's career began to falter. The transition to sound required more than just good looks and expressive acting. A pleasant speaking voice, controlled dialogue delivery, and adaptation to new filming technologies became essential. Bow, who had a strong Brooklyn accent and a distinctive voice, did not easily fit into the expectations of the new medium. Early sound technology was also unforgiving, as it amplified every vocal nuance and inflection, making even the slightest imperfections obvious. While her voice wasn't particularly problematic, she felt uncomfortable with the demands of recording dialogue and struggled with the technical restrictions imposed by sound equipment. Beyond the technical challenges, Bo faced significant personal struggles during this time. Her tumultuous personal life, marked by financial issues, family pressures, and a series of mental health challenges, took a toll on her well-being. Studios also put immense pressure on her to conform to the changing standards of Hollywood, which left her feeling increasingly alienated from the industry she once dominated. Overwhelmed by these combined pressures, Bo chose to retire in the early 1930s at the age of 28, stepping away from the spotlight. Vilma Banki. Vilma Banki, a Hungarian-born actress renowned for her beauty and delicate, ethereal screen presence, became a celebrated star of silent films in Hollywood. Known for her roles alongside leading men such as Rudolph Valentino in The Son of the Sheik and Ronald Colman in The Winning of Barbara Worth, Banki's career flourished during the 1920s. Her elegance and grace, combined with her strong on-screen chemistry with these stars, made her an icon of romance in the silent era. Banki's soft, expressive features suited the close-ups that silent films favored, allowing her to convey deep emotion without the need for words. When sound films emerged, however, Banki's career encountered significant obstacles. Her thick Hungarian accent presented a notable challenge in an industry that demanded clear, easily understood voices. Early sound technology was less forgiving, amplifying her accent and making her dialogue difficult for American audiences to follow. Unlike some silent stars who adapted to voice training, Banki did not attempt to change her speech pattern or accent, as she had little interest in making the transition. Her roles, which often cast her as the archetype of mysterious foreign beauty, did not lend themselves well to sound cinema, where verbal expression was becoming increasingly crucial to character development. Moreover, Banki's personal priorities shifted around this time.
I don't
She
know
married
any of these
actor
people.
Rod LaRock in 1927, and as
They ruled empires, waged wars, and shaped centuries. But behind the velvet curtains, the British royals were weird. Not just eccentric. Weird. A king who talked to trees. A queen who dressed for her own funeral, daily. A prince who slept in one boot to dodge death. These aren't myths. They're habits. Real, recorded, and royally baffling. So buckle up. Because once you peer behind the crown jewels, you'll find something stranger than fiction. 33 of the weirdest, most unsettling royal quirks ever whispered through palace halls.
Now we're gonna watch the Gambinos.
The Gambinos. No crime family in America has been as powerful, as wealthy, or as treacherous. The founder, Carlo Gambino, had the intelligence of a fox, the strength of a lion, and the nose of a hawk.
This guy was calling the shots, and those shots ended in murder.
How he himself avoided being murdered is an astonishing mystery to me.
He ruled quietly, controlling so many rackets in New York City, he had more power than the mayor. His successor, Paul Castellano, a pampered businessman who had not paid his dues on the street.
Guys who had been in the trenches, robbing and stealing and killing and hijacking and everything, for years said, hey, what about me?
The new boss was lonely and fearful.
When I say to him, why you are very lonely? He said, I only have money in my pocket. People like me die in the street.
He knew all too well. Then came the Gambino boss straight from Central Casting.
I always feel good when John Gotti walked into a restaurant dressed impeccably. It was an event, and everybody stopped and looked around.
And John Gotti tells Sammy, see what I tell you? Everybody loves us.
But in the end, the dapper Don would take
they're going to try and keep you in jail. They say you're in danger while you're out.
100 years ago, well-dressed men rode carriages through the quaint cobblestone streets that wind through the city of Palermo, Sicily, and converge on its ancient town square. Many of these well-dressed men belonged to the Mafia, otherwise known as the Honored Society, a criminal brotherhood that used codes of honor, millions of lira, and above all, to control every aspect of daily life throughout Sicily. These so-called men have been a law unto themselves for centuries. So it's no surprise that Palermo has been the birthplace of many powerful mafia bosses. On August 24th, 1902, a boy was born who one day would build the most powerful crime syndicate in the world. Carlo Gambino. Carlo was born into a prosperous and well-connected family. Many of his relatives were in the Mafia. Carlo grew up sheltered by the Mafia in a part of the city so dominated by the Honored Society that it was off limits even to police and the military. Like others, young Carlo looked up to his Mafia elders. The men of respect had everything a man could want: power and money. They were treated like royalty. As a teenager, Carlo watched them stroll along the streets of the city in their beautifully tailored suits.
All the men would take off their hats, and the women would curtsy and kiss their hands. And he said, "My God, how can you get to be one of these guys?"
The man who made the biggest impression on young Carlo was the head of the Honored Society and one of the most powerful men in Sicily, Don Vito Cascioferro. Don Vito was both charismatic and fearless, but it was his criminal intuition that Carlo idolized most. Don Vito perfected the art of extortion, where earlier mafiosi pillaged and destroyed the businesses who would not cooperate with them. Don Vito's in charging moderate fees for mafia protection, businessmen could operate so long as they paid Don Vito. The energetic and ambitious Carlo wanted to be part of the action. He got out of the street as a teenager, and with the help of his family, got a job as if a businessman failed to pay his protection bill on time, Carlo would arrange an accident. For a young criminal, Carlo's looks were hard to detect. He was only 5'7", of average build, and he did not parade around in fancy suits. His only intimidating feature was his prominent nose, which looked like a fox's beak. He also had a mischievous grin that became his trademark. Carlo was shy and reserved, yet he lived by a creed which would take him to the top of the criminal empire.
One of the great lines that he uttered was, you have to be like a lion and a fox. The fox is small enough to recognize traps, and the lion is small enough to scare away the wolves. You be like a lion and a fox, no one really beats you.
Carlo proved to Don Vito and other men of respect that he was both a lion and a fox, carrying out all their orders with ruthlessness and cunning.
They immediately recognized in Carlo a superior intelligence. He was known as a man of great shrewdness from an early age. It's a quality in Italy which they call furberia. Shrewdness, the kind of intelligence needed to pull off major crimes.
At the age of 19, Carlo's hard work and efforts were rewarded with a formal induction into the Honored Society. His boyhood dream come true. But now, events outside Palermo would begin to shape his life. In the early 1920s, fascism gained popularity throughout Italy. Its leader, Benito Mussolini, had little tolerance for the Honored Society. One of his objectives, to destroy the Mafia.
A lot of young mafiosi thought that there's no future here. They'll end up in jail. And if they had any connection to America, they used it.
And Carlo had plenty of it. Part of his mother's family, the Castellanos, a powerful mafia clan, had already moved to New York. With his future at home in jeopardy, he set his sights on America, where his New York relatives could introduce him to a criminal life full of golden opportunities. So, on a November day in 1921, the young Carlo was smuggled aboard a freighter bound for New York. His family had paid the captain a substantial sum to escort the privileged young man across the Atlantic. A month later, the ship pulled into Norfolk, Virginia, with a cargo of wine, anchovies, and dollars. Dressed in his Sunday best, one lone passenger slowly emerged. Carlo Gambino, all of 19 years old, had arrived.
And he strutted off as if he owned the world, and he was met by his Castellano relatives who whisked him up to New York. And he made a spectacular entry into the United States. You know, it wasn't some scruffy little mobster. He was treated as a prince.
A prince with princely ambitions, and he would let nothing and no one stand in his way. Just before Christmas 1921, the teenaged Carlo Gambino set foot on American soil and began moving up the mafia ladder of success the old-fashioned way, through hard work and violence. But Carlo had a leg up on other gangsters of his generation. His American relatives, already members of New York's bustling underworld, rented him a small apartment near the Brooklyn waterfront. They wasted no time in introducing Carlo to the rackets. It was the era of Prohibition, and the public was thirsty for illegal booze. All over America, organized crime was supplying it and reaping the profits. Some of New York's busiest bootleggers were Carlo's first cousins, the Castellanos.
The Castellano family had a small trucking business. The truck, naturally, like so many other small trucking businesses, was used to transport booze. So he became, in effect, a rum runner. And Gambino was both a driver and sometimes he could serve as a shotgun because different bootleg gangs used to hijack each other's trucks.
In his new criminal career, Carlo met one of the local mafia leaders, Joe the Boss Masseria. This old-time Sicilian man of respect ran a big bootlegging racket. Carlo, sensing an opportunity to move ahead, went to work for Masseria.
Carlo was just a very acute businessman and organizer, and he soon became indispensable to whoever he was working for.
But Gambino was treacherous at heart. He knew that clinging to a single boss could mark him for death by a rival gang. Besides, his own driving ambition left no room for lasting loyalty to anyone, including Joe. In the early 1930s, Carlo's boss was locked in a bloody turf war with a longtime Sicilian rival named Salvatore Maranzano. The younger gangsters, including Carlo, thought the battle was tearing the mafia apart. One of Carlo's friends, Lucky Luciano, devised a clever plan to eliminate the boss. Lucky told Carlo about it and made him an offer.
Charlie Lucky said, look, well, you got an option, you can come with us, and we're going to be the winning side. This was a war that was going on.
Carlo the Fox quietly supported Lucky's plan. In doing so, he positioned himself for future leadership with little personal risk.
Carlo's motivation became the motivation of practically everybody in those days. Get as rich as you can, as fast as you can. And don't worry about all the old rules and codes of the Sicilian mafia.
On April 15, 1931, Luciano invited Masseria to lunch at the Coney Island restaurant. As Lucky excused himself from the table, 4 gunmen walked in and put an end to Joe the Boss. With the murder of Masseria, a number of his men, including Carlo Gambino, joined forces with the new boss, Salvatore Maranzano, but not
Maranzano was very happy to have these really smart, bright young thugs working for him. And Maranzano didn't realize that those bright young thugs were plotting his murder so they could take over everything. And that's what they did.
On orders from Charlie Lucky, Maranzano was shot and stabbed to death in his office. A new generation, led by Luciano, was now in charge, and Carlo had played his cards just right. Cards being dealt by Carlo's friend Luciano, who turned the underworld into a corporation. Each major gang was a vote on the board of directors. Carlo was assigned to the boss who controlled the Brooklyn border, Vincent Mangano. From there, Carlo began plotting a course to create his own criminal empire. Under Mangano, Gambino learned to run a variety of models, ranging from loan sharking to numbers to cargo theft.
He was a good earner for the mob and therefore entitled to respect. And the bottom line in any mafia endeavor, whatever it is how much money the profit is supreme importance.
Carlo's knack for business soon paid off. Just 29 years old, he earned a promotion to captain, in charge of his own crew. One of the first men he chose for the crew was his teenage cousin, Paul Castellano. The son of a Brooklyn numbers runner, Paul was also born into organized crime. Carlo, having learned firsthand how mafia wars are waged, knew that a mobster should be wary of his underlings. And he knew he could trust Paul's blood relative. The less time Gambino spent watching his back, the more time he could devote to planning his rise to power.
He only really trusted the people who had been with him all his life. And he built up this little wall where nobody could get in who wasn't a blood relative.
Blood ties would be of the highest significance to Carlo throughout his life. Some would say too significant. In 1932, at the age of 30, he solidified his bond with the Castellano family when he took the unorthodox step of marrying Paul Castellano's sister, Catherine.
It was amazing that Carlo Gambino married Catherine Castellano because she was his first cousin. And as a good Catholic, you're not supposed to do that. But the Castellanos were extremely powerful in the mafia. He multiplied his power, and that's what he was after.
Carlo and Catherine settled into a modest Brooklyn road. Together they raised 3 sons and a daughter. By all accounts, Carlo was a devoted husband and family man. His marriage and family did not curb his appetite for power and money. The repeal of Prohibition in 1933 brought harder times for many mobsters, drying up their lucrative bootlegging operations. But Carlo saw a new path to profit in a new racket, contraband trade. By dodging liquor taxes, Carlo could undercut his legitimate competitors. With this scheme, Carlo made the first of his several fortunes. His success did not go unnoticed by the law. In 1937, he was convicted of tax evasion in connection with running a 1 million-gallon illegal storage. But Carlo somehow managed to beat it. He got off with a suspended sentence. By 1940, with America entering World War II, Carlo was busy devising ways to make him pay. Throughout the war, the government began rationing essential goods like meat, chocolate, nylons, and government issued ration stamps. So Gambino and his crew found ways to steal them and hoard them. When the government began protecting the ration stamps by storing them in banks, Gambino simply bribed corrupt officials to steal them for him. It wasn't long before Carlo made his next black market hit. But it would not stop there. Carlo saw opportunities everywhere, including a business
He didn't personally go in there and touch people in the ass. He realized that a lot of gay men were lawyers, doctors, everything. And these people at that time were much more susceptible to blackmail than they are now. This wasn't that they were supporting the gay lifestyle. They were supporting their own lifestyle. And they were blackmailing a lot of people.
By the 1950s, Carlo had established an excellent reputation as a big earner for the Mangano crime family. But his path to further advancement seemed blocked. In 1951, his boss, Vincent Mangano, mysteriously disappeared. Many suspected that Mangano's underboss and Carlo's rival, Albert Anastasia, was responsible. Anastasia took control of the crime family. Nicknamed the Lord High Executioner, Anastasia was one of the most feared gangsters of his time. He headed up the infamous mafia hit squad known as Murder Incorporated. Though Anastasia made Carlo his underboss in 1956, Carlo knew he was unlikely to ever become boss through natural succession. He and Anastasia were both in their mid-50s. Anastasia could easily outlive him. Unlike his boss, Carlo Gambino was selective in his use of violence. But when he saw no other way, he would not hesitate to kill. Carlo was determined to reach the top, so Anastasia had to go. It was that simple. Carlo set up the hit. On October 25th, 1957, Anastasia went for a shave at his usual barbershop at the Park Sheraton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan. As a hot towel was placed over his face, two gunmen rushed in and shot him 5 times. The last bullet penetrated his brain. Now, no one stood in Carlo's way. He was the boss. His wits and tenacity had gotten him to the top of the Mangano crime family. Soon, he would transform that family into his very own Gambino dynasty. By the age of 55, Carlo Gambino had finally achieved his lifelong ambition to become boss of the crime family. He had connived and killed his way to the top. Now it was time to exploit his power in the service of that most basic mafia principle, breaking the law. The crime family, which now bore his name, already controlled the Brooklyn waterfront. But, like any good executive, Carlo knew the future lay in diversification. He expanded into a wide range of rackets: gambling, construction bid rigging, loan sharking, even securities fraud. In 1962, Carlo once again used bloodlines to strengthen his hold on organized crime. He arranged the marriage of his eldest son Tommy with the daughter of fellow New York crime boss Thomas Pickles. The marriage soon gave Gambino access to yet another lucrative and more modern racket.
So Casey started doing a tremendous business by hijacking freight from JFK Airport, corrupting the unions that handle freight. And then he cut his friend Carlo Gambino in on that racket because Carlo Gambino's son had married his daughter.
Gambino had infiltrated what had become the nation's greatest force cash orders. His men bribed airport employees to tip them off when valuable shipments were arriving. Gambino drivers were there to hold them away. Gambino expanded his criminal empire by taking control of yet another racket, extorting the New York garment industry, an industry responsible for 70% of all the clothes sold in the U.S. By infiltrating the small but powerful truckers union, Gambino could effectively demand a percentage of every garment sold. If the businesses did not pay up, their goods would not get to market. Following the old mafia tradition of secrecy, or omertà, Gambino conducted business in his Brooklyn home in code to foil any attempts by law enforcement to eavesdrop on his meetings.
If he and his capos met in the meeting room in his house to decide whether a certain guy should be killed or not, the scene would go something like this. One of the capos would get up and say, "Froggy legs." And Carlo would go like this. And at the end of it. He would never open his mouth.
The tactic worked. Efforts to record Gambino came up empty.
He very rarely spoke at meetings, so it was hard to wiretap him. He was shrewd that way. And of course, that was the successful way to be.
The boss also kept a low profile in his personal life. For all his wealth and power, he lived modestly and eluded the media.
Gambino was hard to get on your radar screen. He did not go bouncing at night. He didn't have, routine schedules. He was an elusive character, and I think very deliberately so. He was a low-profile character, and very successfully so, because his invisibility ultimately was his power.
The
Mr. Gambino, do you have any idea why you've been brought here?
His desire for anonymity aside, Gambino could not resist one public indulgence.
Here was a guy who went to so much trouble to live in a small, modest house. Went to so much trouble to not have the big, long, shiny black Cadillac. He kind of had this gray or dark, Oldsmobile, and the license plate was CG1, I think. But he had to allow himself that one little trapping of power, that one little vanity, the license plate with his initials. Back then, it showed you had a little juice.
By the mid-60s, Carlo was moving into his mid-60s, aging gracefully and looking more like a grandfather than a mafia godfather. He liked to give the appearance of a harmless, humble old immigrant.
I was at the Westchester Premier Theater, and I was introduced to Carlo Gambino. And he said, "Pleasure to meet you." Very polite old gentleman. He spoke with a very heavy accent. He was wearing an overcoat, top hat. You would never know who he was if it wasn't brought to your attention. You'd say, "Oh, nice little old Italian man."
If you met Carlo Gambino, you would say, "This guy looks like Geppetto, the shoemaker with Pinocchio." His demeanor was so low-key and so grandfatherly. It was incredible he was what he was.
One sign of Carlo's high-powered business life was his strong addiction to coffee. When he went to these cafes, he drank from a bottomless cup.
I couldn't believe that anybody could drink that kind of black coffee and not get a jolt of adrenaline that would drive you over a cliff. He told me how many cups he used to drink a day. Just a dozen cups of black coffee a day.
The outwardly mild manner did not fool those who knew Carlo well, allies and enemies alike.
Carlo Gambino, his middle name was treacherous. He was the most treacherous mafia boss of them all. He would not hesitate to kill someone who would help him very much.
By the late 60s, the Gambino crime family had swelled to 25 crews with a total of about 800 men. Carlo Gambino had arguably become the most powerful man in all of New York.
Do you think that a man who never became an American citizen, who never got out of high school in Italy, could assemble this gigantic empire worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, a conglomeration of rackets, 30, 40, 50 rackets,